Today we're going to explore a shamelessly beautiful game of Carlsen and learn the 4 main rules of attack along the way. I'm Grandmaster Igor Smirnov, and let's go ahead and get started. And right at the beginning, Carlsen shocks his opponent by playing the Ammonia Opening. It is really called that way because it resembles a chemical formula for ammonia. Black continues with g6, and now Carlsen comes back to more usual chess opening moves, and after c6, Black is ready to play d5, grab in the center, and possibly trying to disrupt White's pawn structure, but Carlsen says no way, goes bishop c4 to reinforce his control over the square, and not let Black break open the center with d5. Black instead chooses the move d6, still hoping to trade off on h3, but now Carlsen is right on time to go knight g5, and now from here the knight is supporting the attack to the square f7. Black plays e6 to block the diagonal, but also to hit the knight. But Carlsen also plays a multi-purpose move, pawn d4, which grabs the center, but also opens up the bishop to guard the knight. Black played d5 to attack the white bishop and also the center in general. And here's the first question: to take or not to take? That evergreen question. And the answer is to take is a mistake, which is the first rule of attack. Carlsen knows this and he doesn't take. That would only help Black to activate his bishop and give White nothing in return. That is why instead Carlsen just retreated the bishop back to b3, and in reply Black actually did just that mistake. Captured on e4. Now, look at this position right here. Look at this bishop, it has no way out, it has no moves here, right? It's all blocked. Look at the knight also, it has no moves forward, right? It's all blocked. But after the trade, the situation changes quite significantly in White's favor. Now this knight is getting much more active, and the bishop is now having a longer diagonal to operate. All thanks to Black's own move, pawn takes e4. Now Black goes knight f6, and actually I think that Black underestimated the Ammonia Opening, because while preparing the video I got to know that ammonia at certain concentrations could explode if ignited, and I guess it was that case, because Carlsen played knight takes f7, sacrificing the knight. And actually, while referring to different rules of attack, I would mainly use quotes from the greatest master of attack of all times, Mikhail Tal. And one of his rules was that uncastled king is an invitation to attack. In his terms, he said that as long as my opponent hasn't castled yet, on every move, I'm looking for ways to start attacking his king. And here's White is doing just that. He's seeing the centralized king and he's looking for ways to attack it. Now the other knight comes into play and delivers a check to the king. Plus, our bishop is now also taking part into the attack. Black played king e7, getting the king out of this check and also supporting this pawn on e6 so that White cannot easily capture it. And actually, this attack, objectively speaking, is unsound. White does not have enough brute force to somehow continue and checkmate Black. However, in reality, it's still very difficult for Black to play with the centralized king. And Carlsen simply castles. Now White is ready to bring his rook to this file and reinforce his attack. Therefore, Black is naturally trying to get rid of this annoying advanced knight on g5 and plays h6. And at this point, of course, White could just retreat right here to f3. However, this brings us to the next rule, still from Mikhail Tal, and he said, I like to grasp the initiative and never give my opponent peace of mind. Well, of course, nowadays we have a super grandmaster at that, your phone's notifications. Nevertheless, if you just retreat back, then your opponent has some free time to complete his development and maybe even convert his material advantage. Therefore, instead, Carlsen sacrifices the knight right here. And after bishop recaptures, White can't easily trade all that because then he's just down 2 pieces, and therefore he plays rook e1 instead, pinning the bishop and now threatening it because it's also under the fire of your bishop from b3. Black responded with knight to d5 to block the diagonal, and now White creates total Magnus with queen to g4. It is obviously not a blunder of the queen, but instead it is an attacked move. The bishop is pinned down to the king, therefore it can't move, and now White threatens to capture the bishop one way or the other. And that is also an interesting moment of the game, where the most natural way for Black to defend this bishop would be to play something like queen d7 or queen d6. However, that would be a wrong move, and Black did not play it. Because in this case, White can play queen g6, attack this bishop, and keep his attack going. That said, we gotta give credit to the Black player who played a much less intuitive move, queen g8, which is a very precise move, because not only it guards the bishop from here, but now queen takes g6 is less of a problem for Black, because the bishop on g7 is already guarded in advance. Carlsen plays c4 to kick away this knight from d5, and if the knight just goes back, there is potentially d5 coming, again trying to capitalize on the pin, and therefore to also gain a tempo, black retreated to f6, hitting the queen, but the queen doesn't go back, it just comes forward, queen takes g6. And at this point, black played queen to f7, which actually brings us to the next rule, still from Tal. There is a famous, probably the most famous quote from Tal, which says this: "You must take your opponent into a deep dark forest where 2 + 2 = 5 and the path back out is only wide enough for 1. And what it actually means is, even unsound sacrifices will often work if the path to survive for your opponent is to find precise defensive moves all the time, because usually your opponents came from Blunderville anyway, and they won't be able to find all these brilliant moves. And right here, Queen of 7 looks like it makes perfect sense, kicking out the white queen from here, however, it misses rook takes e6. By the way, I think at this point black should have noticed the pattern. Whenever he tries to kick out one of white's pieces from the king side, Carlsen always comes up with a sacrifice. And here rook takes e6 is a very strong move. Now why is that so? Black's got 2 ways to capture the rook. But queen takes e6 fails to this queen check, black drops the bishop, and now he's going to lose the rook on the next turn just as well. And if instead he captures it with a king, which he did in the game, then white has this c5, very strange check from b3, which actually skewers the queen and the king. And at this point, black was probably hearing the classical sound of broken chess dreams. Now black has nothing else to do but to get the king out of the way, but after that it all falls apart. Queen takes f7, drops the queen, then white captures this bishop right here, and after this black is going to lose some more material and black just resigned. And an interesting thing about this game is that throughout it, Stockfish claimed that black had a winning position throughout most of the game. However, of course, the outcome is totally different. So I think that the main takeaway is that it pays off to play aggressive gambits, especially in blitz, despite the fact that meticulous Stockfish tries to discourage you. And with that being said, you can check out this video where I cover one of my favorite aggressive gambits for white to win more games.